to order. At this time, can you please stand for the... You ready? At this time, I'd like to ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, God, for bringing us here safely tonight. Please give us the guidance and the wisdom to make the right decisions for our community. In this we pray, amen. Amen. May we have a roll call, please?
Present. Present. Present.
Present.
Present. Item number 5, these are communications from the staff. At this time, we are going to add another agenda item to our business tonight, and we will add this under 11E. If you want to go further into it, Cleve, or...
You just need Cleve to, you have to make 2 findings that it came to your attention after the agenda was done and there's a need to immediately act.
Let me just quickly explain. Under RRM Design Group's contract for the streetscape work, there was part of the contract includes for them to prepare the construction documents, and when they prepared the initial contract that we agreed to with them, they stated that they needed to be able to negotiate that cost once the design work was finished, because they didn't know prior to that what exactly the construction documents were going to entail. They've now come back to this. I received their estimate on Friday, and in order to keep this moving, as you know, we're under a tight timeline to get this project done in order to potentially realize an additional $100,000 in matching funds from Stancog. So that's the reason that I'm proposing to add this to the agenda. It just came to me on Friday. And in order to make this, keep this on track so that we don't get the project behind, I'd like to have the council discuss it and take action on it tonight. So they need to make a motion to add it,
right.
Is that correct?
Right.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add item 11E to the agenda. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, Cleve. Item number 6, these are items from the public. These are non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Are there any non-agenda items at this time? And if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Maurice Roper. I live in Crow's Landing, California, and I'm here to, I guess, introduce
Can you step forward to the mic a little bit?
introduce a program to help the drug and gang and alcohol prevention to the city. And I have a gentleman here that wants to speak on that.
Okay.
I'm Pastor Doug Young from Los Banos, California. We have several of our members that live in Newman, Gusting area, and upon them explaining that you are experiencing some of the same problems we are in Los Banos with the growing drug problem, gang problem, felt the need to offer our services if we could. We have been working at some time now in Los Banos trying to provide counseling and a support group and youth activities. Basically what we do, we have an event night where once it's advertised, we offer with video presentation, drama, dance, number of different things, all of these items. Our team is made up of members of our church who have experienced past lives of drug and alcohol use. Some even have served time in the penitentiary and give their testimony of what they experienced and the horrors of it. And encouraging the children to stay away from these things. We've had the opportunity to even go into the high school and speak there. We call our team WHAM, which means Winning Hearts and Minds to Christ. Our faith and belief is that the hope of our children is Christ, and to teach them to stay away from these things and to get them involved in something else. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana, and probably the thing there that caused the most problems is there's so little to do, and many times we ended up getting in trouble. And so we try to provide an alternative. We've proposed here that we offer this program to the city of Newman, and the Newman Theater is what we are asking for you all to help us with. Our team, Rudy Camacho and some of the others, are willing to come in and bring all of our services completely no charge. I think there was even, if you are willing to run the concessions, it's fine. But we would like to come and just bring our services and say we want to try to help. If we can touch one child, one teenager, just keep them away from making the wrong decisions, that is our goal. We have a target date of March the 11th. That is just a target date. We're certainly very flexible, and our hope is between now and then to make an approach to go into the high school with the permission of our school board and a letter of recommendation from our school board to your school board, and go in and make a school presentation advertising this event so the children will be aware of it and be able to know where to come. And it's pretty spectacular, costumes and smoke and lights, and at the end we usually have DJ with dancing and those sort of things, and just for them to have an all-around good time. But while they're having that good time, the message comes forth, and they can hear what has happened to the people that have experienced these things with drugs and gangs and alcohol abuse, and try to make the right decision. And thank you very much.
Are there any questions? Now, you've worked with, did I hear have you been in contact with the people at the theater already?
I
Yes.
contacted parents,
Oh, okay, okay.
and she said there was no problem, but to get back with her on a date.
Okay, okay.
And
You want to add anything down there?
Hold on just one second. Well, we'll have to look into it further. I guess, as I understand it, our lease that the theater group has requires them to lease it to registered nonprofit foundations or groups, and so that would be the one thing that we would have to look at as far as whether or not this would fit those guidelines that are within their things. The council can't take any action on this, obviously, because it's not on their agenda tonight, but we could look into it and get a response back to you. I can look into it I think if the council wants me to, and get a
Absolutely.
response back to you as far as what, talk to Ferris and see what can be done.
We can also provide documents as far as if they need our nonprofit status and all of those documents, and
Okay.
insurance as well. I mean,
Okay.
we're covered for events like this.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Do you need that?
Yeah, we would. Reese, if you can get that to me at City Hall, some of that information, then we can work on it from there.
Okay.
And then we could have, I was going to say, and then we could move forward and then have it come back, I guess, for...
Well, technically, as long as they meet the nonprofit status, it doesn't, I guess, require council approval. They can go straight to the theater,
Okay.
and because the theater has control of scheduling that
Well,
facility.
we have it leased out, so I don't see where we.
Yeah, so the council
don't have
doesn't
any
technically,
control.
I appreciate you coming out and giving us the information. It's good information to put out to the community through this venue. But technically, if it meets the guidelines of the theater, you could work directly with the theater group, the Theater Foundation, and
So I'll
lease
get
it
that
through them.
information and pass it to you then.
Well, I would maybe go directly to Ferris, and then if she has some concerns, she can come to talk to me and figure out if something else needs to be done. But as long as the theater group agrees to it, then I don't think the city council would object to it, so.
All right.
Why don't you ask Ferris to put it on the agenda for the theater board meeting, which is
First Wednesday?
next Wednesday, and a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
And then that's the best thing to do, I think.
Okay.
That way it's the quickest. And I just want to say, I think we all up here are very thankful for you to come out here and take such an interest in our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is items from the public. These are agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the council on a matter on the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor and the council grants a longer period of time. Are there any questions under agenda items? Okay, seeing none. This time we will move to the consent calendar. Item 7A is to have approval of the warrants. 7B is approval of the minutes of January 11th, 2000 regular meeting. Item 7C is to adopt a resolution of the City Council approving the functional classification changes and additions for streets within the City of Newman. And item D, this is adopt resolution number 2000 next to number, supporting continuation of the abandoned vehicle abatement program. Are there any items that you'd wish to be pulled?
I'd like to pull item D, please.
All right. Any others? If not, can we have a motion on 7A, B, C?
I move approval of consent calendar items number 7A, B, and C.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Can we pull item 7C, Cleve?
It's D.
D.
Oh, I'm sorry,
yes.
7D.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Questions, David?
Yes, this doesn't cover too well. It obviously, that applies to funds to the city of Newman also for taking abandoned vehicles off the streets, and it can be on private property also. Is that
Correct.
true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, are we really taking advantage of this?
Yes.
There's a lot of abandoned vehicles that on private property that we
Well,
really haven't done anything about.
well, we have done quite a few of them. I thought Chief Brady was going to be here. I'm not sure where he is tonight.
He's sick.
Oh, is he? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. But I know that we do file claims and get part of this money each, according to how many vehicles we actually get rid of, we get money back for that. I don't have that exact dollar amount without Chief Brady or our finance director here tonight. I couldn't
I
tell
know
you.
I've
but-
asked Chief Brady several times, about different things that I've seen, and it's, while we can't go into the on private property for this or that, and obviously, there are abandoned vehicles. Here in the, I think in our code, it says that they have to be missing wheels or doors or something like that. Well, a lot of times, a lot of abandoned vehicles that aren't missing wheels or doors, they just flat don't run and things like that. So I think that I think we ought to probably go ahead and approve this and support this continuation of the abandoned vehicle abatement program. But I think that we ought to take advantage of it here and press it a little bit more.
Okay.
Levi, I had a question.
Yes.
Abandoned vehicles, is that something on personal property that would be abandoned?
It can be, but however, for us to go in and take someone's vehicle that is on personal property, Tom, you can help me out this, it's more of a cumbersome process. Now, some of these are some that we, usually the easiest way is that the owners voluntarily give them up. They say, yeah, we don't want it, take it, and then we're able to treat them as abandoned and get the funds that way. That's the way it mostly works. To go through the process to actually, go through the abatement process is much more cumbersome process to actually get that. And I don't believe the funds that we get through this would actually pay for that full abatement process. It may
No,
supplement it, but Tom?
Yeah, because I have to prepare a petition and a declaration and make an appearance, and I would never advise you to go on without getting an order from that. So at this point, it's not. I mean, if we had a situation where we had a lot of vehicles on one property, then I think that would make sense.
Yeah, I can think of one right now where there's 5 or 6 in the back.
That that'd be your call on the resource. I think when it's the the single one here and there,
Our,
just what you have to pay me doesn't make sense.
So can we could approve this tonight, but can you follow up, Cleve, on the working with Mike and
Yeah.
working with Dave as far as being maybe a little bit more forceful on
Yeah.
some of these
I'll
things?
ask Mike to bring back a report on this, on what we've done in the past, and efforts we can continue with in the future, and what the process is to get this done, so that we're all can understand what they have to do and what we can continue to do in the future.
In talking to Mike, there have been quite a number of vehicles that have been removed. I was surprised at the number that he told me that they have taken off. And but like Tom said, that some of those is just a bear, just trying to get in there.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Can we move to adopt item 7D, and Cleve will follow back up with the chief on this?
I make
So
a
mo-
motion, we
oh.
adopt resolution number 2000, next number, supporting continuation of abandoned vehicle abatement program.
Second?
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 8, these are public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. Which one? Oh. Since it's redevelopment money? Okay. At this time, we had made the motion earlier to add this new renegotiated contract with RRM under 11E. I will ask, since it's a redevelopment item, that it be changed to item 9C.
Yeah, 9C, and that'll be.
And then we'll drop
That's fine.
adjournment down to 9D. So it'll be 9C. Okay, item 9A, we're adjourning to meet as the Newman Redevelopment Agency. May we have a roll call, please?
Present?
Present.
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 Present. Item 9B, this is to adopt a resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an agreement with Damari Enterprises for purchase of property at 1325 and 1341 N Street on Highway 33. Cleve?
I'm gonna let Tom help me out with this one. We're that close. There's a couple of wording problems between our attorney and their attorney, and but the principle is all there. And what it finally came down to is we have ordered a preliminary title report to clear up some things. Once that is back, which it should be in the next day or so, we'll be able to finalize it and bring back the final agreement. So what we probably need to do on this is simply table it, Tom,
Right.
or continue it to the
Continue
next
to
meeting.
next meeting.
And then we will take action. But Tom can brief you more on where we're at on it. He's been working on this. So.
Can we approve this, though, subject to the final language being,
Yeah, you could, but it's probably better that we bring
Okay.
it back, the
You-
agreement, so you
yeah.
have a chance to see it, because you don't have the
Yeah.
actual agreement tonight. We just didn't have that final language, but.
I think this is was a perfect example of how you can make some progress when you have the lawyers step back for a while. And Cleve and the Damari's representative have done that. Basically, I think our agreement in principle has got us back to where we started, which is what we wanted to do. Some of the basics are just that we're back to taking title by grant deed, subject only to encumbrances like public utility easements and not monetary judgments, which was something that I think their counsel and I were we just weren't on the same page. So anyway, I think by the next meeting we'll have it in final form for you and put it to bed.
all right? So we will continue item 9 B till the first meeting in February. Item 9C, this is the authorize city manager to renegotiate contract with RM Design Group for construction document phase not to exceed $83,000. Cleve?
Let me give you, if I can, some background on this. When we began the contract with RRM, we went out to bid for it, for the design, construction, to follow all the way through the entire project. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to stay consistent with the company and make sure that we kept moving forward with it and got this project done. When we did their contract, obviously there were certain things, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, and one of them was these construction documents. They said, well, we'll give you a quote on that, or an estimate, but due to the fact that we haven't even done the design work yet, we don't know what we're going to be doing construction documents for. And therefore, we have to reserve the right to come back and firm up that amount once we know what we're going to be preparing construction documents for. I will say right now that I have a real concern about the way this figure has come back. The original figure was $22,000 for the construction document portion. And now it has come back at $83,000, 4 times what it originally was. However, as I mentioned, as the council knows, we recently got money approved to do the downtown streetscape through CMAQ funds and some other funding. We have a June 20th deadline to have the final document in hand from Caltrans. If we succeed in doing that, we will receive an additional about $105,000, I think it is, from StanCog, which would be a portion of our matching funds that we're required to pay. In other words, they would pay those matching funds for us all, except for they would pay 80% of our matching funds. However, it's very important in order to get that $100,000. We need to be moving ahead with this project. I mean, we are moving ahead with it now. We're not really delayed yet, but to put this process off any further will delay us even more. I just received this on, I believe it was late Thursday. I talked to our city engineer about it a little bit on Friday. It was too late to add it to your agenda. We were already through that, and I didn't have a chance to meet with RRM and really talk to them about it and see what we could do. We have since talked with them a little bit to try to get some more information as far as why this has gone as high as it can, or as high as it has at this point. Obviously, when we go into the actual construction documents, we've already had a scoping meeting, and our city engineer will still do some of the work. That was agreed upon because he'll do the civil engineering work that's required for the storm drains and some of the other systems that are done. So they won't even, this isn't for them doing the complete package, and we realize that some of that would take place. As I mentioned, I'm not happy with this figure. I'm concerned that there's still some things that possibly their price is a little bit high. However, I do realize that we've told them what our timeline is. It's requiring them to switch some projects around. Probably they're telling us to do some overtime in order to make sure that this process goes completely through. And all of those things are the reasons they're adding up, that's saying why this contract is going to be as large as it is. My position on it, I'm not asking council to necessarily approve this, but we do need to move forward. I'm asking if they want me to go back and try to negotiate this down, but it's difficult to, because we do need to keep the project moving. It's a trade-off between giving this $83,000 here or losing the $100,000 on the other end if we don't keep the project moving. So with that, I'll open it up for your comments, questions. I'll try to answer them the best I can.
Are these these drawings are what are necessary to present to Caltrans, right?
Correct.
Okay.
There'll be the drawings to go to Caltrans and for their approval, and then also to go out to bid for the actual construction.
So if we get these to Caltrans by June 1st, then we will receive $100,000 and some odd, right?
Well, it's not get these to Caltrans. There's a series of processes we go through. There's some environmental that has to be done. There's several steps that we go through with Caltrans, different forms that have to be approved, and the final one has to be in our hands by June 20th.
But if we get that $100,000, that will offset this $83,000.
Technically, it
So
would, yes.
could we agree to their figures if we have to, contingent on them having the drawings to them by that time, to Caltrans by that time? If they don't get them by that time, they don't get their full figure.
We can set up a timeline that we can require them to meet, and require them to be that, and if they don't meet it, then some penalties could be involved in that. Part of it is that it's not just them, because our city engineer has to do his end of the work too, to meet that too, but.
But that would allow us to go ahead
That would
then.
be one way of doing it, sure.
Did he give any explanation of why it was almost 4 times as much?
Only what I've briefly told you is that because they weren't, the timeline is very quick. We're asking them to move really fast on it, and obviously they're having to either bring in more staff from another office
Okay.
or something in order to, or work overtime in order to get all the work done that needs to be done.
What did they think the timeline was before, though?
Well, we had always talked about, beginning the project this summer, but I think this has put some other pressures on it because we didn't expect to get all of this state funding that we were getting, and there wouldn't have been the same requirements if we wouldn't have had this state funding.
Well, when it was brought up before, they were talking about doing it in phases.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we've changed all that.
That's the other thing that they mentioned. They originally didn't think that we were going to be able to do the whole project,
Right.
and that perhaps the construction documents would not be as significant because we were only doing possibly certain different phases of it, a single phase or whatever. So,
The thing that just surprises me that it's almost 4 times.
I agree. I was very surprised by that myself. We've talked to them a little bit to try and figure out, they haven't, because we asked them to turn this around as quickly as they could when they brought it up. We haven't seen, the attachment that you have here is all that I've seen. We don't have a detail of, the hours that will be spent on different things. The only thing we do have is the electrical subcontractor that they will use. They have an estimate from him of $9,000 for the electrical work that will need to be done. Other than that, we don't really have a lot, because they haven't put it together yet.
When they gave us the original bid in the $20,000 range,
Mhm.
did they give us detailed analysis of what that would include?
Yeah, sort of. It talked about the different things that, some simple statements, but not real good detail as far as how many hours on each portion, but it did have some detail to it about what it would include.
Important that we compare the two and see, other than time, other than overtime, why is
Mhm.
this 4 times higher than
Right, yeah.
original?
And I've got the city engineer, he talked to him a little bit today, but was not able to get all the answers he wanted on that, and we'll continue to do that. But one of the things that they wanted to, I lost my train of thought now. The number of hours in the original contract was not spelled out. It was just, this is what they estimated would need to be done. And so we want to look at that. One of the things that I kind of thought was happening by doing the whole project, some of the storm drain work, et cetera, some of the civil work that I was originally assuming they would do and I thought was included in their contract, is now being done by us. So some of the work that I thought might have actually been reduced by what has happened through the whole process.
Do we have a way of comparing, I know a lot of cities in the valley have gone through downtown redevelopment projects.
Mhm.
Is there a way, do we have a means of comparing our project with a similar city and finding out, are these fees appropriate? I mean, when you compare them to, I know it's probably apples and oranges, we're talking about
Yeah.
a short time frame here, but.
The city of Lodi is very cooperative in giving out their information when they did theirs. So,
Most of the cities will give out that information, and I could try and find that out. I know that a lot of, if you're talking to landscape architects or other architects, design architects, whatever, that do this kind of work, if you were to go to them and tell them, I have a $2 million project or whatever, lots of times they'll give you, usually you can count on your fees being 1% or something like that. And I can find out some of those things and see where it is for this type of project. I have a feeling that we may be in the ballpark with this. Actually, if you're to add this to the other, about a little over 20,000 that was the remainder of the contract, you'd be at about $100,000 with this, and that's about 1%. And I think that the figures that I've heard in the past, that may be a ballpark figure for that type of work. So.
What kind of time frame do you have to renegotiate this?
Well, I want to keep them moving immediately. What I was
Well,
looking at is,
week, 2 weeks, a month?
yeah, no,
Not a month.
Yeah,
1
that's-
week.
Oh, okay.
I would like to get them moving that fast, because they're doing work now. We've got them going because we can't afford to not have them working. In order to get everything done, we need to have them going now. So.
Well, either way, I mean, if we don't do it, then we're going to lose 105,000.
And it may turn out that
which
that
is-
figure is reasonable when you compare
And
it
it's
to
reasonable when we
others.
pay it, and then we've lost 100,000.
Well, the only bad thing about this is they know they have us held hostage on this thing here, and they
You're
know
right.
the deadline. I'm sure they know about this 80% match. They know the June 20th deadline. They know the whole thing. And, I mean, we've got 5 months to get these construction documents all ready and up to Caltrans. And, unfortunately, it seems like we have to bite the bullet on this one. I mean, I know you have about a week to talk to them, see if maybe they could sharpen their pencil a little bit, but short of that, I mean, like you all say, it's not, worth giving up that 80%, by us having our project delivered on time. So do you want us to go ahead and go forward with this and give you the week?
Yeah, I would like you to authorize me to renegotiate the contract so that we don't delay. And, it won't be over the 82,000. I'm hoping that it can be at least under and maybe considerably under, but I just don't know without further conversation with them.
Well, I move to authorize city manager to renegotiate the contract with our RM Design Group for construction document phase not to exceed $83,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Just briefly on this last one that we passed, and there will be specific language that says as far as performance, as far as
Sure.
delivering all the work that they need to do.
I'll have Tom help me with the agreement so that we get that language in there.
Okay. And that's it for the Newman Redevelopment Agency. So at this time, we will adjourn that and reconvene to the regular session. We will go to item 11, which is regular business. This is to adopt resolution number 2000 next to number, supporting the Newman Healthy Start Program and agreeing to in-kind matching funds. Mary Pickford's here tonight.
Yeah, Mary's here. I'll let her explain most of this. We are working together on this, and hopefully we'll continue to work together. So.
Working together on many projects, and very much appreciate the support and commitment of Newman City Council. Thank you very much. Our after-school program, do you remember about this time last year, maybe February, mid-February, I came to you and asked for support for a grant proposal request for an after-school safe neighborhood grant. We did receive that. We're the only junior high in Stanislaus County to receive that grant. Right now, we have between 35 and 40 students at YOLO from 3 to 6, critical hours, having 40 kids busy and engaged, academic as well as a recreational program. And we thank you very much. That was our grant last year. This year, we're applying for the Healthy Start grant, which we did apply for last year and did not receive, but and sometimes it's meant to be. A little tough taking that medicine last year when we heard we didn't receive it, but I think we've been able to spend more time planning, and our goals are to raise the academic achievement annually, to increase family involvement in our schools, increase coordinated linkages among schools and service agencies, and expand opportunities for medical, dental, and mental health services for our families and students. Next week, we're going to have a mental health clinician at our school sites, provided by the county mental health department. And that's a great boon at no cost to the district as a support of our Healthy Start grant. They believe this is, in my 10 years in this community, it's the first time we've had a clinician in the community. And it's another demonstration of support from our community as well as the county. what I've come to ask you for is an in-kind match letter, and that's this new terminology with the state, and this kind of a grant is to calculate the amount of involvement the city. In fact, we just went to last week sometime. We went to Houston to look at a Healthy Start site. But we actually do have monies or in-kind match in terms of time from Cleve, from Mike as well. But I've addressed 3 areas: youth development and after-school tutoring program. In addition, staff time committed to the collaborative meetings, evaluation activities, and community programs could count as part of your in-kind match. And Cleve has been involved in developing those kind of letters for us in the past. But it is a requirement for the Healthy Start grant for us actually to have an in-kind match, demonstrate a commitment, not just one person's idea about what the community needs, but actually to demonstrate that commitment. As you know, last year we had over 600 responses to our community survey, and one of the finest responses in the county as far as Healthy Start questionnaire. So we were able to clarify the needs of the community. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions for Mary?
I already talked to her before the meeting, got my questions answered.
Okay.
We don't have any questions tonight, but we want to, the city wants to thank you for all of your work that you do on behalf of this.
Great.
Can we have, if there are no other questions, can we have some direction, please?
Excuse me. I so move for adoption of resolution number 2000, next number, supporting the Newman Healthy Start program, agreeing to in-kind matching funds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you again, Mary. Item 11B, this is to approve a bid for documents and authorize staff to solicit bids for landscape maintenance district services. Ernie?
Yes, good evening. Excuse me. This issue is a staff request to solicit bids for landscape maintenance district services. The bid specifications that were submitted for your review were obtained from the city of Los Banos. They are presently contracting out their mowing, trimming, and edging of all their parks and facilities. So what we did is we modified the contract in the bid specs to meet our needs, and we're now requesting for the approval of those bid specifications and to authorize to solicit bids.
Are there any questions for Ernie?
Yes. When you bring back the bids and the information, I'd like to have you bring back, well, you told me that you already have this report made up, that Doug did most of it. Is that how many hours you're actually putting in there now and what it's costing the city? Because you had made one statement that what we're paying from our different districts, that we're not paying anywhere near what it costs to have the work done. So what I'd like to see is how you came up, what hours you came up with, and then how much it's costing the city now, so that we can compare with the bids as they come back.
Yes, in the past we have through our time cards that the employees fill out after their day's work. They list how many hours were spent doing what jobs and what areas. And so Doug has pretty much kept track of how many hours were spent at the landscape districts, and we can bring those so that you can have a comparison with the bid prices.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Ernie?
Yeah, Ernie, these are only your, the listed ones here. That doesn't include the parks and things like that. That'll continue to be done by the city. By the city?
No, it does not. All it includes are the Lucas Ranch, the Oakwood Vista, Silver Ranch, Canyon Creek, and Corjed Estates.
In Stonehenge.
And Stonehenge, yes.
Yeah, at this time, all we're doing is bringing back these. We'll continue to take a look at this, and when we bring back these bids, Ernie can bring back an analysis of that time, a comparison of what it's costing us to do this in-house with what it would cost us to contract out and what that would take to do that, and at that time we can provide the information so the council can make a decision on what you want to do.
You also throw in the amount of money that we're paying in from these different districts.
Right, sure.
Good.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions for Ernie?
I just had one thing, I'm not sure if you got this, Ernie, just to add a word in the indemnity provision.
What page do you have?
It's page 9 of the last document, the general info.
Okay, indemnity, yes. Go
And
ahead.
it would just say, contractor shall save, comma, hold harmless, comma, take out the and there,
Okay,
then indemnify and defend the city.
okay. And defend the city.
And what that means is they have to have their attorney defend us rather than having you pay me to do it and then try and seek reimbursement. So it's better if you say.
Very good.
Ernie, also when you provide the analysis, would it mean then that the city would have one less position, or would that position be reassigned to another department, or, you know, the work that person is doing now will go away, so is there other work that'll be assigned to?
Yeah. Well, obviously, that's what we're going to have to look at. Obviously, if we're taking out a portion of what the public works staff is doing, you know, we won't really realize any cost savings if they are there unless we make an adjustment somewhere else. So that's something that's going to have to be looked at as part of that process.
That's part of it.
But as the city is growing, we're still going to
Yeah.
need extra people as we go along for.
Yeah, I took a tour with Ernie and Lance out at the plant and through the city, and he was showing me, and then with Doug Matoza. And I was really got my eyes opened up because I'd never been out there before, and I've never talked to him about staff and how many hours they spend. But right now, they're just so understaffed that I don't see how they get all the work done that they do. And like you say, we're going to be growing, and we're going to need more staff. So
We get our downtown streetscape done, why there's going to be almost a full-time person down there probably.
And it
Keeping
sounds
that-
as though we'll have more
well, no,
parks too.
yeah, but now see, with the downtown streetscape, they won't have to go around and water all those trees anymore. It's all going to be
No,
right
but
in
you-
there.
They'll have to
there's
plant
not
So
a-
it's going to
Change all the
Prune 'em.
plants
Right.
and all that stuff.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ernie.
You bet.
Appreciate it. So we will come back with, can we have some direction on item 11B, please?
I make a motion that we approve the bid documents and authorize staff to solicit bids for landscape maintenance district services as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thanks again, Ernie. Item 11C, this is to review and assign council members to various committees. Cleve?
This is pretty much just to open up to you. We've given you a copy of the people who are assigned to different committees at this time with the appointment of Councilmember Applegate. The council requested that this be brought back so that you could look at it and possibly make some new or additional assignments to this. There's also attached a couple of pages that outline what some of these committees are. So with that, I'll basically open it up to you to discuss this and
Sure.
make assignments.
Okay, let's see which ones. Which ones were the ones that Councilmember Altemuller was? I had looked at it
None.
the other day.
She,
and I-
she didn't
And I,
have to do an
I
assignment.
guess I just glanced over. I just didn't realize it.
They all left.
All right. Okay, we could just briefly go through it then. On StanCog, I'm the Sheila's the alternate. Sketco, Dave's our representative. CVOC, Sheila. The City Selection Committee and the Stanislaus Mayor's Committee I'm on. All of us are on the City County Committee. The League Executive Committee, we'll put that to the side. The School Task Force, do we have two people? Because I know in the past we've had two people. Are you the other
We have
person?
had two
Yeah, I
in the
believe-
past, yeah.
Who's
Were
the-
you appointed to that? I
Uh-huh.
think it was, wasn't it, Sheila?
Mhm.
That's you and Sheila, yeah.
Mhm.
And then we have the wastewater treatment plant task force, that's Sheila and Dave. And then we have, I don't remember what that acronym is.
Mhm.
The Economic Development Action Committee is Sheila.
Mhm.
Then we have this Westside Energy Working Group, it's Bob. Westside Economic Development, Crows Landing Airfield, Dave. Tosca is me. Solid Waste Task Force, Dave. Chamber of Commerce is Dave. Westside Theater Liaison is Bob, and the Cable TV Liaison is Bob Navoa. Are there any committees that anybody would like to relinquish to Tom? I have, actually, there's a couple that I serve on that, if, you know, the League of California Cities Executive Committee. Normally, they've had the mayor, but, I mean, that's, as far as I'm concerned, I think everybody should serve on that committee if they'd like. And also, Tosca's on Monday night. If you could pick, I mean, you could have either one or both.
I'll take both.
Okay.
I'd like to relinquish the Solid Waste Task Force if Tom is interested in that.
Wastewater treatment plant task force?
No, Solid Waste Task
Oh,
Force.
solid waste.
The
Where's that
fourth
at?
one from the bottom.
Under task 14. 14.
I spoke with Paul Caruso on this Crows Landing Airfield committee, and as far as he knows, there is no such thing, so I don't know what's...
I think there was at one time. It may be coming back.
Well, there will be.
Yeah,
There
well, yeah, it's definitely coming back.
will
to
definitely
something,
be
but
one
yeah.
now with this Crows
Ron
Landing deal.
Freitas, I talked to Ron Freitas at a meeting over in Modesto for that 10 million people coming into the valley, and they're forming a committee. I talked to him about it, and they're starting to go ahead on it, and they're going to have a committee. So I told him that we would like to be part of that group, and he said that he would make sure that we were in on it. So that, you know, had a voice in it.
All right. So that's
So Cleve, you might talk to him.
all right. Any others? You're up to
The wastewater treatment plant task force, if you'd care to
would you like to serve on that, Tom?
serve on that one.
Tom?
Well, I'm reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I have 3 now.
What is that?
Well, you have 4 now if you take that one.
That would make 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually 5 with the just 10 million people committee, business, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it'd be 5. Is that all right?
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And if there's any scheduling problems as far as overlapping, then you can just
Right.
let us know.
Okay.
All right. So
I'll be
we
glad to volunteer for the daytime stuff that people have trouble getting to. So
we will make the changes as far as the league executive committee. Tosca, the permanent member, or actually, let me give Dave the first crack at this. On the wastewater treatment plant task force, does the alternate and the permanent member show up at both?
They can. They're both welcome to
There
attend those.
hasn't
Okay.
been a meeting in...
So we really don't really have an alternate. We have 2 members on that one, right? Okay.
Basically.
Okay, so we're adding Tom to the League Executive Committee, Wastewater Treatment Plant Task Force, Tosca, the Solid Waste Task Force, and this yet-to-be unnamed committee. Is there any other changes that anybody would like to request at this time? Bob, Annie? No? Okay, so if we could make those changes, do we need to take a formal action on it? Or just...
Just concurrence. I think.
Okay, everybody concurs with these?
We're okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tom. Item 11D. This is to select dates and agenda items for joint meeting with the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District. Cleve?
As you recall, well, it's been back in April, so almost a year ago, a couple of months short of a year ago, we met with the school district and mentioned at that time we want to continue to meet together. Recently, we've been talking, the superintendent and I and Mayor Marquez also suggested that it's probably time for another meeting. There are some issues coming up. They are doing some work. I met with Mr. Salinas and their architect yesterday, I guess it was, look at some draft preliminary drawings of the junior high school site. So there is work moving forward on that. They want to continue to move forward on it. I mentioned to them at that time that, and I talked to the architect about coming back to us. I made a few suggestions without bringing it to anyone else at that time, but a few suggestions, and talked to him about possibly contracting with the city to site plan the whole area with our 10 acres also, because it makes sense to develop that all together. For instance, on their site, they had 6 baseball diamonds planned on the drawing that I looked at, and I said, well, you know, perhaps you don't need that many if the city has a couple on ours also, and so I think the key was to say that if we plan this all together, it could drastically change how the layout of different facilities that are put out there. We also discussed the possibility of different joint facilities that could be done out there and other things. So anyway, there are some things going on. That school facilities is probably one of the key ones. There are some other issues that we can probably talk about, but what I wanted to do tonight is suggest if you can come up with 2 or 3, you know, a primary date and then maybe a couple of alternate dates that we can make. Then I can take it back to the superintendent. He met with his board last night and discussed this. However, I didn't get a hold of him today to find out what dates they selected, so I don't know if they came up with any of these or not. And then if there are specific agenda items that any of the council members would like to suggest, if they can give those to me either tonight or in the next couple of weeks, I'll be happy to put those on the agenda also.
Well, it looks like the first one that would be preferable would be this one on the 22nd, which is our regular meeting, and since they have a holiday on the 21st of
Right.
February, then perhaps they might move it over to the 22nd, depending on what their agenda looks like. So that would probably be the first choice, I imagine. And you know, even some of these that fall on these Tuesdays, like maybe the 15th, you know, possibly we could cancel our regularly scheduled second meeting and have, you know, just have it a week before or something, you know, just so we keep on the 2 meetings a month schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the only Tuesdays on there. Are there any objections to those 2 Tuesdays? Since everybody's pretty much on the Tuesday pattern
It
already.
would be the 22nd
The
first
15th,
and the 15th.
and then are there any other dates aside from that?
Yeah, the only thing with the 22nd, well, but we can probably make arrangements for this, was if something critical comes up, other, you know, city agenda item that we need to handle, but we can probably, I don't know, work that out, either meet
Yeah.
separately before we go in
Well-
jointly with them or something.
Well, what we
can
could
work
do
out
on
the
that,
details.
even if we do have some agenda items, I suspect that, you know, because what I don't want to see us do as far as a meeting is load up 1.5 million items here. You know, it
Right.
seems like when we have these joint meetings, we don't seem to focus on 1 or 2 areas. We try to load everything up and try to get 10 years of meetings that we should have had into one agenda item, and you know, realistically, you know, we don't all have, you know, they don't have the time, you don't have the time to follow up on all these items. I think the main things of concern are these facilities concerns and joint use concerns. I mean, beyond that, I mean, I'm not quite sure how much further we can get into their business, but I mean, are there other topics that are more important than school facilities and
That's the most important.
and joint use
Yeah.
facilities with them?
I agree with you, Charles. I
Pretty
think
important
just these 2
Oh,
topics could take a whole evening
Yeah.
easily.
And if it doesn't, I mean, we could, you know, schedule something maybe a little lighter for us. I mean, because I'm not sure that, I mean, we're either going to know or not where this is going to go. I mean, we'll know right from the beginning how the tone of how the meeting's going to go. But yeah, those are the 2 main issues, I would think, the school facilities issues, and maybe one of the other things on the school facility issue we could bring up, because I know Cleve and I and Bob Borchard have met with the with the building industry in the school district, probably, what, 2 months ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a presentation from one of the consultants who had talked about particular time frames as far as being able to possibly get funding for the school district, because I know one of the other issues that has come up was with regards to school bonds. But, at some point, maybe we could talk to the district on that, and at some point, we may want to have this particular individual come and give us a presentation, because, we've been talking about facilities for years, and, I don't think we're a little closer, but not too much closer than we've been. And I think at some point, we're going to maybe have to move forward a little bit, but we'll wait until the meeting on the 22nd or the 15th, whichever one it falls on. And on the joint use, the joint facilities, we're mainly going to talk about what, the Mariposa Park and some of the other issues with joint uses.
Right.
Okay. Are there any other things on that anybody else would like to talk about?
I'm just thinking that, on the topic of school facilities, I think the bond issue would naturally become a part of that conversation.
Right.
Yeah. Has anyone been following Proposition 26? Or I know the League of Cities is really pushing 26.
Yeah, it does.
There's some restrictions there
Yeah.
in the fact that they require
It doesn't sound like it's
independent
going to
audit.
make it. from what
Pardon?
It doesn't sound like it's going to make it from what I've heard. I'm not sure. That's,
Well, they may be concerned that
But-
the bond money can only go towards a facility.
Mhm.
That may be a hang up for some people.
yeah.
Did anybody bring that resolution that they gave us? They were asking the city council to make a resolution to back that bill. I mean, the proposition.
Yeah, I gave you the copies. We could schedule that for an agenda if you'd like. They sent enough copies for me to give to all, and I was kind of
Right.
waiting to see if you want me to
Yeah.
put that on the
Is that the one,
agenda.
League of Cities?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we ought to agendize it.
Okay.
26.
Proposition
Just talk
26.
about it.
Okay. Anything else? Any other? Sheila, anything else?
No,
Okay.
I would agree. I think the 22nd would be my first choice, 15th second.
Yeah. that'd be
Okay.
good.
That's fine. 22nd.
So those are our two choices, Cleve, and then pretty much those items, and obviously that's just what we want to talk about. Obviously, they're going to have some things that they would like to talk about as well.
Right.
All right, so we concur on that. We don't have to make a motion. do we? Okay. Item number 12, these are items from the city manager, Cleve.
Just briefly, a reminder again, next Tuesday, we have Planning Commissioner and Recreation Commissioner interviews. That's at the library at 6 o'clock, right, Judy? Okay.
Wow, it's already, jeez.
Yeah.
Time
Ne-
flies.
Next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And we do have applications, I'm not sure how many, but we do have enough to fill the positions anyway that we have, so we have had enough applications come in. And I think that's all that I have for tonight.
Bob, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Tom?
Yes, I have two items, and maybe Bob Navoa can help me out with this too. Every Rotary district has a GSE team called Group Study Exchange, and each district throughout our country, and also throughout some of the districts in the world, send teams to each district, and so that they can learn our ways and learn information about how we do things, not in education, in physicians, architects. I think, Bob, they said today that one is an architect, one is a doctor, and do you remember what some of the others were? Anyhow, we were privileged to have them come to Newman for a 4-day period, and that we stay in at houses like with Carol Stevens, Kelly Hislop, Bush Rose, and Bob McConnell. Will be housing them with them, and then we have tours. I passed this out to each one of you beforehand, and what they want to do is on Tuesday, April the 4th, at 8:45 in the schedule, is have a reception at City Hall and meet the mayor, the city manager, and the council members. And then how can we honor these visitors from India? We've had people here from France, that we entertained. We've had them from Switzerland, was it? Portugal, and then we just had last year those ones. Well, anyhow, so what I'd like to do is maybe run this by with Cleve and sit down and talk with them and see what we can work out, maybe proclamation or whatever, and bringing them into our city and honoring them.
Sounds like a great idea.
That this doesn't happen that often. That one club will get them for 4 days in a row. So.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other item is that I've been talking with several other people and also with Cleve today. I think that as we are approving these subdivisions that we have, the 5 that we have, and we have to look towards the future, and 10 years down the road is not that far away either, is that we need to look into the idea of, as we put the subdivisions in, is to put the fiber optics in also at the same time, so that each house would be able to get on the net, with their computers. President Clinton is behind this wholeheartedly, because he says everybody should have the opportunity to be able to get on to the internet and use their computers. So Cleve's going to call, and I'm going to call and talk to AT&T to find out how we can start looking into this and see what we can do, and also maybe talk to Pac Bell also. But I think we need to start looking at this now, and so as they run their wires and things, that we can get that fiber optics in there. So that's just one of the things that we're working on now.
Yeah, and that, Tom, tonight on World News Tonight, they had a big section on there. They were showing houses that are being hooked up with the internet lines and everything else, and now where it's just becoming standard to where they're already in there, and instead of the phone lines, this was a big piece they had on there. That was really good.
Yeah, well, Cleve brought up the same thing, and saying that AT&T and some of these other ones already have that. You can do it all with one line. Right. You can watch your TV, you can have your internet, you can have your telephone and everything else just on the one fiber optic.
Anything else, Tom?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Sheila?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Dave?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. I just had one item tonight. One of the things I talked to Rotary today about was with regards to our industrial improvements. Talked a little bit about the downtown and some of the savings that we were going to see with this redevelopment agency fund. One of the things Cleve and I had talked about was with regards to a report that we had, and I had gotten a copy of it, but I hadn't brought it in with me, is some estimates that were done on L Street, reconstructing L Street, M Street, and Stanislaus Street out there. And I think as we move forward on that Inyo Railroad crossing this summer, where we're going to have curb and gutter all the way down Inyo, we're going to have that street widened and that railroad crossing done, and we start to look at some more improvements in our industrial area. We set aside some money for economic development in our implementation plan. I think we might want to consider taking a look at revisiting that project, the improvements out there, because as we try to bring new businesses into town, we're going to need to have an attractive industrial area, and as you all know, that area does not look very appealing, and so if we could possibly have that come back and possibly discuss it again, and just maybe look at making those improvements that we need to. Is there any?
No, I agree wholeheartedly that I've always said if you don't build it, they won't come. If you don't have the infrastructure in there, and when they come to look, I don't think they're going to think about staying here. In other words, otherwise having to go through the whole process, which would really make it lengthier to get infrastructure in. So if we have it in beforehand, I think it would be more attractive.
Yeah, and one of the other areas on that we might want to consider, I know we're going to have, pretty much everybody, working pretty hard on this downtown project, and I know that's the number one priority right now. But at some point, I think we also, in addition to these industrial improvements that I've talked about, the other area that we may need to look at in the near future is, one, working with Merced County, getting a hold of Greg Wellman and Jerry O'Banion to start looking at ways that we could work on that 80-acre joint development agreement that we have with Merced County and some of the plans that they have and some of the plans that we may have. And also with that is, at some point, we need to start looking at setting up a process to where we set up these small, medium, and large-sized parcels out there. That way, when people are actually ready to come in, you know, they don't have to go through a process to where, well, we'll get back to you when it's ready and set up and everything else, because, you know, by the time we get to getting back to them, they're going to be down the road someplace else. And I just think it's important that at some point, you know, not only do we get the industrial area looking nice, but we get it ready for development. So if we could bring that back as well.
You know, I read recently that there's a study underway to look at bringing jobs where the affordable housing is, or bring affordable housing where the jobs are, and it would certainly seem more prudent to bring the jobs out where the affordable housing is. And maybe this is part of that 10 million person study that Tom was talking about earlier, but if there's an opportunity for us to become involved in that, I think, you know, that might be a way that we can get the word out that we certainly do have affordable housing here. Just bring us the jobs. And
Well, one of the things that they mentioned, and like Bob Seavey mentioned at our meeting at Rotary also, is that when you're looking at it, what we need to do is really go out and find the jobs, the industries, because bringing in the Walmarts and the Targets and that doesn't do any good. It hurts business, and it has the low-paying jobs, and that's what's happening in Modesto and some of these other places. He said, and they're trying to turn that around by bringing in the estrogen, by having the infrastructure there in place so that they can come in.
and I mean, we may not attract the high-tech sector, but then again, you know, if we have available land at a reasonable cost and a good
Yeah.
quality of life.
Right.
I think the
Yeah.
important thing is just making sure that the industrial area is actually
Ready.
in a state to where, you know, it looks attractive, because we aren't going to attract anybody
That's the way it looks now.
If we don't
in
have
the
it.
condition that it's in. I mean,
Mhm.
that's for sure. So anyway, if we could bring that back at some point, I know our downtown projects are our main priority in getting these documents and everything done, but at some point we need to bring that back. If there are any other items, okay. At this time, we will adjourn to the closed session under property negotiations, government code section 54956.8, 1915 N Street. At this time, well, we'll take about a 2-minute break, and then we will go into closed session.
Hey, Ernie.